Hey everyone, and welcome to another Drop Kickoff podcast. There's only two of us today, me, Nick, and Nathan. Nick's off sick. I think that's the first time it's happened. It's a bit like Michael Hooper, never goes down. But I'm glad anyway.
Real convenient. It's just real convenient this happens in the Brumbies list. All I'm going to say.
Yeah.
All I'm going to say. Funny about that.
Yeah. But I'm sure you agree, Nathan, a lot more devastating than Rob Valentini. Because that's definitely why the Brumbies lost. But Nathan, hey, how are you? How you going?
We're good. We're just kicking along. Still feeling positive. Still haven't had one of those really bad losses that makes me regret why I do this and why I support this team/sport/thing that I put way too much time in my life in. So it's been good. Yeah. Been good.
That's great. Yeah, I've been good too. Just came back from a holiday, but we'll get back to that soon, Nathan, as we crack on with this podcast. Very excited to talk about my holiday. I actually hate when people talk about their holidays. Like I went to Europe. It's like 25 words or less. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear you sunning yourself on the sands of Monaco. This
is actually relevant, though. So
it is relevant. It is relevant, everyone.
We swear.
We swear. So I guess it's a bit late in the week to talk about the games last week, so this may be a preview pod, but Super's been pretty great so far. Really close games. I'm sure Nathan, you probably have some stats on it. Off the top of my head, the Chiefs Crusaders game was the biggest margin, 25 points, but it's probably like an average of 7, right?
Yeah, and when you look at that game as well, it was one of those ones where I think at the 55-minute mark, it was 17-all before the Chiefs just took over and just blew that game out. It's one of those ones in terms of like statistics and all the numbers. It is not only the most points that we've seen, in some of the most points we've ever seen. 70.1 is the average points, which is 5 higher than the next highest mark in 23. More importantly, the margins of victory are like 6th overall, and which 4th in a combined competition. So it was. That's like your perfect. If you look at as like rugby's version of like the crazy hot scale, where you got to try and meet the middle. Like we're getting good points. We're also getting really close games. Like we're at that mark right now, and that's why everything feels so good around the sport, and just why we're actually feeling real positive. So that's been good. Like we got some Australian teams winning. Got some really close games, some really gutsy performances from other teams. Like it's just been a really high quality game with just a lot of great tries as well. It's really like to see. More tries good and all, but tries like Finn Hurley's where he chips and chases and goes himself and just blows off 3 people. Like that's pretty epic. That's the stuff you're not getting in the Premiership or the URC. So, man, it's been good. Definitely. It's been a great quality in the first fortnight.
Yeah, it has been quite exciting. Look, we'll talk about the team coming second 2 off 2 first forward, which also neatly ties into my trip I just had. Yeah, the Force have won it at the death. I think at the death of the last game against Rugby. I didn't quite tune into the end, but had some cracking games.
You're just speaking of cracking
tries. Oh, mate, love it. And speaking of cracking tries and stuff, Ben Donaldson playing his ass off. Maybe Eddie was right all along to play him in the World Cup.
He knew what he could do. This is like a 74th minute try by Pangramosa. I think they were still down to 13 players when this happened. Like it's a unbelievable show of fight from a Force side, which again, I think we said in the preview, they haven't got the shiny sort of toys or big names like your Tars or Reds do, but they've got dogs. That's all I need. They've got dogs. Darcy Swain, dog. Yeah. Brandon Pangramosa, dog. Carlo Tizzano, dog. They're just full of dogs. That's what you want.
Yeah, Carlo Tizzano is the chief hound.
Chief dog.
Yes, Nathan.
I was going to say Champion de Crescent as well. Both, I think those two combined made 57 or 59 tackles without missing one. Like that's epic. For rugby terms, it's insane.
We were talking. Tizzano made 31.
34,
tackles.
I'm pretty sure.
And I was like, because I remember that Nathan Hindmarsh record, and I thought it was like 45, but you were like, it's 80, was it?
81 by Cam McInnes 2 or 3 years ago. But like that's what happens when you don't have like rucks at Maules and shit like that.
Yeah, like you have a lot more tackles in rugby league, and less players to make them as well.
Unless they make it in like casino lifts or whatever. Whatever happens with inflatable baseball bat stays with the inflatable baseball bat.
Can you fucking imagine that? I mean, those guys should have been sent home. That is ridiculous. Why are they fucking around? They're basically on a holiday funded by the NRL.
Oh yeah, and journalists included are funded by the NRL over there. So like, that's all I'm saying is if that's the one that got out, there's definitely stuff. Like I can't say definitely because we'll get sued. I'm pretty certain there's stuff that has happened on the side in past NRL Vegas trips that all of a sudden just mysteriously don't get reported because we're over there and how good's our tour? How good's Vegas? We're really getting the US market. It's not just a bunch of expats looking to get drunk in Vegas for the weekend.
Yeah. Yeah, it's actually funny how they're all talking about, how it could be an American sport and all that stuff. It's a pipe dream. Like the logic just doesn't exist with sport. You've got to have a foothold. You can't just say this is a nice flashy sport because there's nice flashy sport all over the world.
And you know which sport it does have a foothold over there? That this is just pumping up? Union. Again, Americans are going to watch a league on Sunday and be like, oh, yeah, this is what a Lone Mar plays.
Yeah.
So thanks for the free publicity, guys.
Hey, didn't one of the teams go to play, show up at a rugby union club in Utah or something?
Yeah, Roosters last year did that.
Yeah.
Like it's so funny when they're just like, oh, we've got this foothold, blah, blah, blah. And then on the bottom, they have to be like, they still think it's union, but like we're getting closer. I heard like 2 or 3 people call it league this time. And it's like, guys, we have a World Cup going there in 31. Yeah, if you want this to actually grow the sport, call it what it is. Or just call it as your just big opening round thing. But ultimately, your stronghold's going to be in union. World Cup coming up. Any talent that sees rugby league is just going to go play rugby union because there's, as you said, there's the foothold there.
Mm. The French call it rugby 13.
The French are also a weird bunch.
Yeah, they are. Before Nathan gets on one of his racist rants again. So we just go back to talking about the Force. So, of course, I had the privilege to go on a little holiday to WA recently. I'll tell you what, Nathan, usually you can get single-way tickets for $500. I got a return ticket for $400.
Ooh.
Yeah, unbelievable. So I'm like, kind of go to Perth. So have you ever holidayed or just stayed in Perth for?
I've done both. I've holidayed there and also been at HBF Park, which, as you probably tested, I actually think it's like almost like a perfect rugby ground.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Like it's small. It's like a perfect size for a Super Rugby, I reckon. Like you have the forecourt out the back, which can be set up with like. As more like a little festival vibe if you want to, with like little food trucks and stuff like that. And it's not too far from the CBD. So I would say that's like, I went there for 7, so it was a full festival. So I'll be interested to hear what your thoughts were for that Moana Force game, which you were at, and you're able to definitely say that 83rd minute try which Donaldson scored.
Yeah, no, I had to leave early because I had to go back to my hotel to pick up my stuff before it closed. So I actually had no idea that the game ended that way. Nick was just saying, "Oh, did you see that?" I'm like, "Fuck, I didn't." But yeah, it was a great little ground. So you can't see it on TV, but on the left corner post, if you're watching from TV, the left corner post, there's a grass hill, and it was just great. Like grass hill, yeah.
It's not a grass hill; it's like a standing area.
Yeah, there's a standing on the end, but to the right of that stand. If you're looking at the field, there's a little grass hill. So we were just there. And it was fucking great. It was a really hot day. I don't know how any of those guys were throwing up. Like, I don't know how you could tackle someone, let alone play 80 minutes of rugby. It was bacon hot. Great little ground.
It's the power of the Pacific. It's just used to the humidity, and it's just everyone's used to playing in stupid humidity and temperatures. That's great.
Yeah. The beers were still half price, but did I get tins? I can't remember. But I think I do tins over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. It was great, and it's a small little stadium. Like you're right, like it's probably a bit like Concord in size.
Yeah, it's probably like a smaller Amy. I'd say it's bigger than Ballymore, just smaller than Amy. That's probably my best description. Basically, if you put a proper stand in Leichhardt Oval, that's what it is.
Yeah, that's probably a good. Yeah, it's not Amy. Amy is like a proper stadium. It's just a small one, but yeah, it was great. It was, great little vibe. Force fans were great. They're all there in their Force shirts. Also interesting, I really should have taken the list, but there were a lot of people just wearing other jerseys. So a couple of Warriors jerseys, a couple of Super jerseys. There was a dude wearing a Welsh shirt and another guy wearing a Norris shirt. Yeah, it was great. And they had half time, and they had ads on, kind of like you would on TV, or kind of like they do actually most ones, but it was pretty much all ads. And the funny thing with Perth, it's basically, like just a mining town. It's mines and services, and not much else, it seems. Like everything's named after a mining company. You look at the skyline, and the four biggest things are Rio Tinto, skyscrapers are Rio Tinto, BHP, whatever. Anyway, so Altrad has an ad. Altrad, I don't know what they do, but they make mining equipment. Like they manufacture stuff. Then you have one for Fortescue or Woodside Petroleum. And then the third ad is a local scrap metal recycler. And it's a death metal jingle of people going, recycle, scrap metal. And they're playing in the studio. It was just fucking bizarre, man. And then Retrovision's still in WA.
Hell yeah.
So,
hell yeah, Retrovision.
It's Timu Harvey Norman, whose ads are already fucking awful anyway.
That's the job.
Man, they're the same ads since we were kids.
Again, why would you improve on perfection? That's all I say.
Yeah. Anyway, so great time. It was a really good stadium. I'd love to go back.
Out of 10. What do you rate it?
Probably give it like a 8, maybe.
Okay, that's pretty good.
Maybe a 7. Yeah.
We got the 7.5 then. If you're gonna go between two, give it a 7.5.
Yeah, I'm kind of against halves when you've got 10 options to choose from. But yeah.
Well, you get 20 options to choose from, so that's great.
Yeah. Might as well rate it out of 20 then, Nathan. 15 out of 20.
Perfect. All right, that's what we can do then.
Yeah. Okay, 15 out.
Next Waratahs game you go to, you've got to rate Allianz Stadium and see what it rates. Does it get better than 15 out of 20?
Yeah. Well, look, the crowd was good. Was good. Is good on Friday, which probably will because Fijians rocking up.
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. Anyway, that's my trip. Sorry if everyone's probably tuned out. Came here to talk rugby, so I'm going to talk rugby, everyone. Let's move on to this weekend's games. I hate the bye. I hate having 11 teams. It sucks. Who's got the bye this weekend? The Rebels.
Saders.
No, joking.
Joking.
Just joking, everyone.
You're going to get yourself at least a paragraph from Jeff Parks' column. So,
yeah,
that's despicable.
The Crusaders have the bye this weekend. So the 2 games on Friday: Moana and Highlanders, Waratahs and Fiji Drua, and then on Saturday, Chiefs, Brumbies, Hurricanes, Blues, Force, Reds. So Nathan, let's kind of go through these. Let's not take too long. Moana Pacifica versus Highlanders. You'd have to say Highlanders. Maybe Moana have just got the rough end of the stick touring Australia as their first 2 games, especially flying to Perth from Auckland, which would be like a 7-hour flight.
Yeah, about that.
What are your thoughts?
No, they would have gone to Brisbane before that. Like Highlanders, I think they were playing a lot of emotion last week. Again, down 13 players. I don't know how they won that game. That was baffling and just amazing fight from Highlanders. Fair play. Tomoko.
So last game was they beat the Blues by 8.
Down to 13 players with the last 20 minutes to go. I reckon there's a chance for Moana to get an upset. Firstly, for a number of reasons. First, Adi Xavier, first game back at home for Auckland, in Auckland, that's going to be sick. Secondly, have you seen the jerseys they're wearing this week?
Yeah, they're sick.
They are so good. Those jerseys are worth at least 4 or 5 points. I'm putting it out there now. If you haven't seen it, go look up their Moana Pacifica Heritage jersey. So cool. That will at least get them some points. And also, Kyron Tamaflau is a sensational talent. He is so good on the wing there. I think he has another big game, and he keeps it close for Moana, who just ride the emotion of coming back to Auckland, of Heritage Round, with all of them having close ties to Samoa and Tonga. Just as Samoa, Tonga, Fiji, I reckon that's what sort of gets the best out of them against a Highlanders side, which spent a lot of petrol tickets last week. So that's my upset of the round. Moana Pacifica beats the Highlanders.
Damn, that's red hot. Already used your upset of the round card on the first game coming along.
That's right. I can think of 4 different adjectives to describe everything else. We're good.
Yeah. So I didn't get to watch Moana play the Reds last week. I was on holiday in Perth, if you don't know. And I watched a bit of the Highlanders Blues. The centre for the Highlanders, Timothy
Tomoko Tatavani, or just Jimmy the Jet.
Jimmy the Jet, too easy. Who is definitely ex-Moana Pacifico and definitely not onshored by the New Zealand Rugby, the captain for the All Blacks, despite the fact he's Fijian. And look, maybe he wants to play for the All Blacks, but I would too if they could pay me a lot more than Fiji.
You're passionate on Twitter. Go off on Moana Pacifica being a capture.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people have said, and look, it gets into difficult territory. A lot of people from the islands immigrate to New Zealand in the same way that everyone wants to immigrate to Australia. And you're naturally just going to have people who are eligible for other nations play for New Zealand or come over when they're, let's say, 10 or 12 or 13 or maybe 16 and then end up, I want to play for New Zealand, which is totally legitimate, totally fine. But then with that, you get accusations of Kiwis, just capping Islanders and taking talent from the islands, which can get a bit tricky. There's a lot of kind of chat about that. I think I mentioned this before, especially Argentina. Power to them. They're 15 players from Argentina. They've built their own rugby culture almost in isolation. They're going to play the British and Irish Lions in Dublin. I think that's probably the first time they've probably done that. I'm guessing probably even since the 30s when they were touring sides. They're kind of cut out from that world system and they've really made a name for themselves. All power to them. But I detect a bit of resentment from Argentina because all their players are homegrown. But the fact is, just global patterns of immigration. The immigrants that Argentina are getting are not from rugby playing nations. They're from Venezuela, Paraguay, Colombia, I guess. Whatever. They're not from rugby playing nations. And those people are probably not going to grow up playing rugby. It's just a fact. If you looked at Uruguay and Chile's teams, they've probably got a couple of Argentines in them because their mum's Chilean or their dad's Uruguayan. But anyway, I just think, you look at Moana and then Kapanet, and you've got Timothy Tanananawai. Apologies, everyone. It's been a long day.
Vana Nawai.
Tavana Vana.
Tavata Vana Nawai.
Tavata Vana Nawai.
Tavata Vana Vana.
Who I think has come to New Zealand the last 4 or 5 years. Played 2 years Moana. They've moved him on to the Highlanders, and people talk about capping him for the ABs. The last centre I can think of playing for Moana was Omea.
Amua, yeah, Levi
Amua, who moved from Moana to Crusaders. So they just taken the best of these teams and playing them and capping them for New Zealand. I think he got capped last year or something.
I don't think he's been capped yet. He kind of had a bit of a. I think that was the plan, but he got. He got injured or just had a severe sort of downturn in form. No, I don't think he hasn't been capped yet.
Yeah, right. But they're still talking about it.
He's still Australian eligible.
Yeah.
Get him in a gold jersey.
Yeah, so it's just a bit bullshit.
Not really.
And look, and it's not like Australians, being capping project players. I think like Tongan Thor came over when he was quite young and said, I want to play for Australia because there's so many Tongans in the Wallabies squad.
I don't know. There's a lot of players which not necessarily capping projects, but we've definitely tried that came over when they were super young. Oh, no, I'm not super young. They played opposite. Yeah. Mirko Korobetti played for Fiji in NRL.
Yeah.
His residency was basically playing for the Storm. Like we're not all of a sudden out of the woods here, but we haven't sort of created a franchise. Your argument is we haven't created a franchise that is specifically designed to keep those players in the game.
That's called Pacific Ocean. That's what Moana Pacifica means. Haven't created a franchise to cap people and are the best, and from tier 2 nations, mind you.
Yeah, and then say to feed them into the perceived stronger New Zealand sides just to beef them up. That's a crux of your argument. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. Yes. Thank you for finishing it for me. But exactly. But on the other hand, it's not like the Fijians are running out of inside centers.
No, they're not. Or just backs in general.
Yeah, they need a couple of locks, and props would be great. But yeah, okay. I like your upset, but I don't think so. I'm going to go Highlanders here, Nathan. So next one, Waratahs, Fiji and Drua. So Waratahs coming back off the bye last week. Of course, they won their first game against the Highlanders, of all people, the first week. Played very confusingly. I'm not sure if they played poorly or if they played well, but just don't know each other. And they're playing the Fiji and Drua, who almost beat the Brumbies at home and almost beat the Hurricanes away.
They should be 2-0 if they were legit in terms of finishing games off. The Waratahs looked like a team that, as you correctly there said, were playing their first game together. Like it was just very disjointed, and I think they got success off the first bomb and just leaned maybe a little too heavy into it. Like it was sort of noticeable when they kept the focus in the forwards and started rumbling forward. That's where they got their gains towards the end. Like it was real typical Dan McKellar stuff, such as line-out moves and one-out just movements to really get the job done. So I think you'll see more of that this week. I think you'll see a lot better performance. This is my the bookmakers definitely have got this wrong game. I think this is going to be real close. As you said, this Drua side is quality. They've got about 10 players come back into this side, most of them being Test internationals from the side that nearly beat the Hurricanes last week. They're going to be desperate. They're going to be full of confidence. And Waratahs missing their Ferrari and Joseph Akusu-Suoliti, who I believe has turf toe and it will probably be out for this week. Hopefully back next week. So,
What is turf toe?
Very American thing. It's something to do with the ligaments in your foot. Essentially, what happens? It's generally say it in NFL, but it's essentially when it's sort of your joint in your foot basically properly I'm trying to think of the word right now.
Okay, it's an injury to the big toe joint that occurs when the toe bends too far upwards.
Yeah, that's it. So my understanding is that's what he has. Yeah, and that's why he was limping for a little bit at the back, and so he came off the field 65 minutes in. So I think it's only a minor one, which is only a 2 to 3 recovery, so probably back next week. I think the Drew push him all the way, and it's going to be another one where I request a defib with 2 minutes to go because I'm going to be sitting there being like, why is this game so close? This is actually, you know what? I'm going to change I'm changing my game of the week. This is my defib game of the week.
Defib.
Cool. This is my. The 2 zeros have already been called. I'm waiting for the third one to be called game of the week.
Yeah, it will definitely be exciting. I think it's a good shout for game of the week, although it won't be my game of the week. Nathan.
I don't know. This is going to be particular. They're all five are going to. This is spoiler alert. All five are going to be games of the week in different ways. This is my. I'm going to have a heart attack game of the week.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Like that one was my upset game of the week.
So what was mine on Highlanders?
The upset game of the week.
Oh, okay.
My upset of the week.
I've only got one.
Upset of the week. Okay, and
so,
this is it.
Yeah,
this is not it.
No. This ain't it for me. No.
Okay,
it'll be a good game.
Yeah.
I
agree with that. It's gonna be a lot more points, I reckon. So.
Yeah. I just think it'll be helter skelter. I think it will be a classic Waratahs structure against slow built structure versus a frenetic Fijian team. And we'll see. It'll be a movable object versus a stoppable force. Moving on to first game on Saturday, it's the Western Sydney Chefs versus the Brumbies. I can see the Brumbies being real cheesed off about that force game, and really keen to show the Chiefs what's what, but just can't see past the Chiefs, can you? They're early front runners, you might say.
That's fair, and this is without Wallace Atiti, who was their best player last year. Like they just look very good. And Brumbies side still missing Noah Loaseo, Rob Valentini, David Felawai, Tom Hooper's out as well. Like there's some quality missing out of this Brumbies side, but it's still enough that they can get a job done. I just think you're right. Like this is a Chiefs side which looks very strong. Cortez Ratama starts. Quintu Pai comes in the starting side. This feels like which is weird to say after they started their year with a grand final rematch. This feels like they're the first time they've actually picked their full strength squad. So this is I will be shitting myself covering this game of the week. Because honestly, if the Chiefs, I watched Super Round way too closely and watched that Chiefs side blow out the Brumbies. I need to see improved performance 12 months on.
I think, and actually if the Chiefs do win this, then you got to say front runners. I mean, they will be at the top of the table 3 out of 3. And the last 2 games have been against Crusaders, who they smashed, and the Blues, who they beat in the first game. Crazy. And Damien McKenzie, who's one of my favourite players, killing it. Much better than just a beast. Killing it much more than Beauden Barrett, who'll be playing the next game, the little baby. He's getting exposed, I think. Beauden Barrett's getting exposed. He just doesn't have that pace anymore. In the Highlanders game, Blues are on the back foot, and he just couldn't. He was trying to force something. It reminded me of the semi-final in Japan when New Zealand were losing against England, and they just didn't know what to do. And they're all playing the worst of Checkers Wallabies. Just Hail Marys. Hail Mary plays. But they're playing the Hurricanes in Wellington, so they'll be away for the Blues.
This is the washed allegations game of the week. Particularly looking at Beauden Barrett. I think 15's not his spot. I think you need to move him to 10 ASAP. You're right. He's not the same player that he was. And honestly, given how incredible of a career he has had, I don't blame him. Like he's gone through a lot. And the Blues need to sort of treat him like he is 33 years old. And actually, it's one of those ones. It's quite fitting he's going to go up against Harry Godfrey, who looked like a young Beauden Barrett against the Fijian Drua. Like, he was incredible, and basically drove him the victory. So I think this is a real dangerous position for the Blues to be in. They are 0-2 as defending champions, and it doesn't get much easier than this. I mean, sure, Brumbies, they'll back themselves to bet the Brumbies, but if they're 0-3, their confidence is going to be low. And then you follow that in, Chiefs away in Hamilton again, Crusaders, who look good, and then Hurricanes again. They could legitimately be 1-6, 2-5 at best. And all of a sudden, they're going to have to do what the Crusaders couldn't do and run the gauntlet. Even still with games away to Crusaders, away to the Reds, Fiji, some really tough games still left on their schedule to all of a sudden try and find a way to make a top 8 that's now a top 6. Like this is almost must win. We're starting to get into almost into must win territory for the Blues, which is crazy to say. While the Hurricanes, they know they got away with one last week, but they know winning against the Blues all of a sudden puts you straight back into people's minds as a team that contend and a team that can really sort of make a difference in this tournament. So I think both teams will be up for it, but this is Bud and Barrett watched the washed game of the week.
It's crazy what you're saying, because the Waratahs, for example, talking about Australian teams playing Kiwi teams, the Waratahs won't play another Kiwi team until week 7. So this is week 3. They played the Highlanders. They're going to play Australian teams. And there's just not going to be a lot of inter-Tasman action until it's more heavily weighted towards the end of the table. So you think, basically, the Kiwi teams are better than the Australian teams, and there's going to be an imbalance of wins. But yeah. I mean, you're absolutely right. But they're just getting smacked around. They have to beat their Kiwi teams and they're going to play. I mean, what'd you say? So after this week, Brumbies at home.
Brumbies at home. So
then Chiefs away.
Yep.
And then Crusaders at home. And
then
the Hurricanes again.
Like, that's rough.
Yeah.
That's a brutal schedule. So look,
absolutely,
they got to start getting wins up now, and this is the week it's got to begin.
Hurricanes, have anything to say about them? I don't think I've watched either of their games so far.
They look good. I enjoyed Godfrey at 10. He's a smart operator, and you got Naholo on the wing, who's looked very good. Peter Lakai starts, which I think is a great move. I think it was very strange he didn't start the first 2 games. Like, he's a game wrecker and a beast, and should just absolutely kill it this game. They're another one of these New Zealand teams with just a stupid injury list. I think they've got close to 12 people out, I want to say, already. The season's barely started. You've Ruben Love, Safa Ramona, Tara Lomax being the big 3, like that. Oh, and Billy Proctor. Like, they're already sort of relying on their younger guys, so they need the win just for confidence before those guys return mid-season.
Yeah, absolutely. And final game of the week, be Force Reds. Force Reds. Now, this is my game of the week, Nathan, because I think this is going to be a test of both of these teams' mettle. So we have the Force trying to do 3-3 against what was pretty good last year, a Red side, and the Reds flying over to Perth to see if they can knock off the Force, who are 2 out of 2. Granted, based on last year's performances, you might say the Force have beaten one good team, which is the Brumbies. And I thought they played fairly poorly against Moana, but somehow pulled it out of the bag. But I think this is going to be a very important clash.
This is my possible versus probables game of the week, because, God, there are so many good matchups from a Wallabies perspective. It's not funny. I love it. That you have the sevens going at it between Tizano and McWright. That is the matchup to watch. Both those guys been in awesome form, especially Tizano. We've already waxed lyrically about him. You then have Donaldson versus Liner, White versus McDermott, Peach versus Dungunu. Even when he comes on, BPA versus Fezler. Swain and would have been Williams, but mainly just Swain against Blythe / Ryan Smith. There's just so many good matchups.
Against the Junkyard Dog?
He's on the bench. So I went Peach with Dungunu. Junkyard Dog on the bench. You got Haramata Murray starting at fullback, so that's going to be a new combination against Matt Greeley, Big Mac, as Andy likes to call him, the old playing against his old side. Get a tribute video when he goes back to Suncorp, hopefully. There's so many good matchups across the park here. I'm really looking forward to this game. And the Force did a number on them surprisingly last year. The Force was struggling and all of a sudden just pulled something out of nothing and just rolled them with their breakdown intensity. So that's going to be the plan for him this week. Try and replicate that. And then for the Reds, it's going to be keep the pace up, use those speedy outside backs, and try and expose some of those defensive fragility moments which the Force have had, because the reality is they're 2-0, but they've conceded 40 points in both their games. That's not the sort of sign of a title contending side. They've got the points. They need to sort of tighten up the defense, and the Reds are a real dangerous side with basically every player they have. When you got people like Ryan Smith finishing tries last week, and even people like Matt Fesler, who's a real rolling more threat. Like, this is going to be a real test of the Force's defense. So, but there's so many different storylines from Wally's perspective that makes this game almost like must watch. It's going to be great.
Yeah, it's going to be fantastic. And I think as well, one thing you didn't kind of touch on is the Force's bench front row really have to step up. At the first game against Moana, the scrum just fell apart. It was like 1991 and the communist East Europe all over again. The way it just fell apart, all of a sudden crumbled into its different little nationalities.
That's crazy.
Yeah, but look, and it's bad luck. Harry Johnson Holmes and other names.
Harry Hoopert.
Harry Hoopert. Their other props both are out for the season before the season began. So real tough, man. But it's just great. The Force have never made the finals. I think that's right.
Correct.
Or maybe once. But yeah.
Never made it in a combined. I think they've made a AU comp final, but that's about it.
I just really want to see them do well. And they've got a great roster. I mean, they've had a great roster a lot of the times, but at least in this case, you can even see Ben Donaldson and Peach have twinned link kind of play style. And I just love to see them crack on. That's it. There's only 5 games, so that's, I think, our preview. I think we kind of discussed everything that we wanted to.
Except for one big thing that we have to discuss. Super W starting this week.
Ah, yes, of course.
We are not Marty Sheargods of the world. We actually care about women's rugby. So,
yeah.
So, I mean, Waratahs Drua first up. Both these games double headers, but so Waratahs Drua first up. Waratahs a bit of a youthful side, but I think given the players they've lost, they've really backed those guys to come through, and I'm really excited to see what they do. Wahari Ellis at 15, she's a gun. She's got a lot of attention, and rightly so, but I'm looking forward to Ruby Anderson in the back row. I think she's your next breakout star of that like teenage group of Waratahs coming through the system. As for the Drua, like a bit of turnover, but they get Vitalina Nakora back. She playing in the centres. She led up NRLW last year after helping the Drua to their titles in 22 and 3. So big name coming back in when they needed the most. Then you speak of big names, you go to the Force Brumbies game. Force's recruiting's been outstanding. Cecilia Smith in the centres, Ash Masters, anywhere she wants to play, really. She's a beast. Alana Skinamati in the front row. Sarah Nagama to partner Mac Leonard in the second row. Like, this is a freakishly good squad going up against a Brumby side who just welcome back one of the better coaches we have in Australian rugby and Andy Friend. Just casually helping some of the best young talent in Australia all of a sudden cook up in the capital. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do at the Brumbies. Like, they haven't signed the big names, but you've got people like Tabua Tuanakavandra, Pesi Palu, Fatila Maleka, her sister, Manu coming off the bench. It's really exciting stuff. And then the fifth team we've got to talk about is the Queensland Reds. They're going to have a bunch of 7 stars, but they've also recruited incredibly well. Lane Morgan and Eva Kapani, 2 big signings, but Tiara Mins in the second row has been great. And the one to watch is those 7s players coming through is Charlotte Kazlik. A lot of chat has been made around these girls only going to be available for round 2 and round 3, but expect some movement around Charlotte Kazlik potentially being available for more than that. Maybe the entire tournament, perhaps. Wait and see. Ooh, little scoop. Have you been listening this long? Little scoop. I know I wouldn't say it's a guarantee, but I would put it in the conversation of don't be surprised if. I know she's very keen on playing 15s this year, whether it's Reds or Wallaroos. So wait and see how that goes down. And then they'll also have a bunch of those 7s players come in. They came last year, and I think that was a fluke. So I think this Reds side is going to be a real contender. I think your main contenders this year are Tars, Reds, Force. Force, I'm worried about. My concerns on each team are the Waratahs have lost so many experienced players that you're relying on a lot of youth. The Force playmakers are pretty inexperienced. Like Grace Freeman's, I think, making a Super W debut or Super W debut. So you're relying on a 10 who hasn't had that much experience to sort of lead you to a title. And then Reds, just the constant changes that you're going to have with those squads with the 7 players coming in and out, plus just can they go from last to first up the bait. So I think this is still a Waratahs title to lose. I think it's going to be a Waratahs Force final. And I think this is going to be the most competitive year where you're going to see at least 2 or 3 upsets, which if you're haven't been paying too much attention to the competition in past years, you're going to look at it and be like, oh, Jesus, how did that happen? Like it's exactly what you want before a World Cup year. You're going to have basically every side firing, ready to go. And whilst there are buys throughout, there is a Penang Pacifica side that they will play on that buy just to continue the workload and get some valuable game time for a big year, which culminates in a World Cup in September, which we will be all across it with myself in England. And basically, I'm sure me and Nick will do some, whichever Nick will do some pods exclusively on it, giving you some inside knowledge on what's happening World Cup life, like we did in 21. Oh, sorry, like we did in 22. So that's keep an eye on that for later in the year.
Well, some wrap up there, Nathan. Is there any kind of news about Super W crossing over with the NZ comp?
So, finally mentioned, because that is a great reminder, that's something I didn't bring up, is that the champions of the Super Rugby W competition will play the Apiki team 5 days after the final, which is a steep turnaround, but that's your first step. I think that's essentially a all but guaranteed sign that you will see a combined competition in 2026. If not 2026, then 100% 2027. I think the Waratahs went over there in a preseason and drew with the champs, the Blues. And that was a strong Blue side as well. So I think that gave people the necessary confidence that if you are going to do a combined competition, they will be competitive. So I think if you'll see the final be more competitive than what people think, regardless of who makes it. And then your announcement later in the year will be that both comps combined for what would be a 9-team, potential 10-team if the Kiwis come on board with another team competition.
Yeah, interesting because they've only got 4 teams.
They didn't cop slack for that. They didn't cop slack for essentially having, I think it's the Crusaders and Highlanders combined for a side. Yet all of a sudden we cop shit as a competition for you only play 5 or 6 weeks. They played less football than us, and they won World Cup.
Yeah. But yeah, that'll be exciting, and it'll be great because it also kind of provides another way of doing things that Super Rugby could do, because they can do whatever they want with the women's comp and really structure it in a way.
Getting that New Zealand, not only that, if this can be the first time, if you get New Zealand involved, you can then hopefully try and engage a Japanese club or 2 to come through and maybe use Super Rugby W as that blueprint to what does the future of Super Rugby League look like? Because the Pacific Ocean isn't just around us. Like, we can expand out Japan if we want to, and I think that's what should happen to alleviate your comment about you hating there's 11 sides. I reckon that's your future, is go to Japan. So there's some quality Japanese clubs I would love to see them engage in a women's competition later down the line. But I think that combined with the Kiwi ones, this is your first step towards doing that.
Yeah, crazy. Thanks so much for that wrap up, Nathan. Just finally, I guess we've got nothing else to say. But all I want to say is thanks Perth. I could watch the Six Nations at a safe time, 10 p.m, and watch a bit of Wales Island. Wales has got rid of Warren Gatland, and they look a million miles better. It's crazy. They look real raw. Like they've just been brutalized, but great. And with the news that Cheika might go to Wales, it's great because that means Wallabies can't hire him.
I mean, to be fair, they would get the Cheika bump for a solid 18 months. And that's all I need just to get him out of quite literally rock bottom. I thought we were in rock bottom after the 2023 World Cup. They found a basement and a cellar and like a little like a 2 further layers that we weren't expecting. They have properly properly shat the bed when it comes to the rankings and just that.
Yeah, Georgia's above them.
They're like 14th.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Also, I love the Irish trying to be arrogant. It was adorable. Them being like, oh, we could bet him with 13 players. It's like, guys, this isn't your game. This is out. Like, leave this to the English or the Australians. You guys keep being humble and, like, don't stop trying this, guys. This doesn't
I saw something. I saw something really funny. So the Super Rugby under 20 comp, I think Ireland and Scotland are at the bottom. And the comment was, "Oh yeah, but as soon as it's because their best players are still getting developed in New Zealand and Australia."
I saw that. It's so good.
Yeah, they'll be all right.
I love how many. I love how triggered it gets him. It's great. Or whenever Vandermeer does I can't remember. He went on some podcast. I can't remember which one it was. Oh, he might have done multiple medias, and everyone's listening to his thick South African accent, being like, "Oh yeah, it's like Glasgow or Edinburgh accent. Which part of Scotland's this from, mate?" Like just properly leaning into it. It's awesome.
Yeah, joke. Okay, well, I think that's all for us today. Thanks for coming on board, Nathan. And if you heard my cat meowing, thank you, Pickles, for voicing your concerns as well. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. I'm sure we won't be as late next week. Okay.
We promise nothing.
We promise nothing. Okay. Catch you guys. Have a great weekend.